Lots of talk about engagement today.
Yes. So, welcome everyone to today's webinar, Instant Engagement, Instant Feedback, Bringing EduProtocols to Life in Book Widgets. My name's Kate Baker. I'm one of your hosts for today. I'm a veteran high school English teacher. I taught high school English for 20 years. I'm also an adjunct professor working with pre-service teachers. And then my day job is head of community engagement here at Book Widgets. And I've been in education for 26, 7 years now. So, Marlena, if you want to introduce yourself.
I'm Marlena Hebron, co-author and co-creator of EduProtocols. I've had a whole career in education forever. I think it's too many years to count, Kate. And and now I just kind of work part-time on EduProtocols and doing stuff with EduProtocols.
Awesome. All right. So, we're going to jump right into it. So, Marlena, what are
Yes.
EduProtocols?
Oh, EduProtocols are kind of what we describe as lesson frames. So if you think of them as like a think, pair, share, that's something that we can ask the kids. We give them a question, we say think, pair, share, and they turn to a partner. They know what to do. We've done it all the time. We do it in kindergarten. We do it in high school. We even do it with adults when we're in PDs. Like everybody knows what a think, pair, share is. So EduProtocols are little snippets, a little more involved than that, but basically it's a lesson frame that you put your content into it, and we teach it to the kids. So then when we say we're going to do an Iron Chef, or we're going to do a sketch and tell, the kids know exactly what to do, and then they can engage in that right away. They know the process, they know how to pair up, they know all those steps. And then we just put in our content. So whether you have young kids or you have high school kids, they can still engage in that sequence. And it just makes the learning a lot easier for the kids. And it makes it a lot easier for you because the prep is also something that you do all the time, right? So they're very easy to put together. And Book Widgets has provided a beautiful platform with the widgets to be able to facilitate that lesson planning.
Yes. And let's talk about doing EduProtocols. Do they have to be done with a tech tool or
Nope.
paper?
It's really the pedagogy of how we're teaching with EduProtocols. And so you'll see them, we're starting to pop up in different platforms, but it doesn't matter. You can do them on paper. You can do them, traditionally, we kind of started out in Google Slides. Book Widgets has just a great platform for this. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not so much about the tech tool, it's about the process that kids are using to engage in learning.
That's a great point. So today's demonstration is going to show you, what's available in Book Widgets. Um, so if you're wondering what is Book Widgets, it is a content creation and student learning platform for teachers. So students never sign into Book Widgets. It is the teacher that signs in. We give you widget and question templates. So we give you kind of think lesson frames, just another name for it, just widgets. We have 40 different widget interactive activity templates plus 37 question types to help make student thinking visible. And 30 of these are auto scored. So when you think about, saving our sanity, not having to start from scratch, saving time, whether it's from the creation side or on the assessment side, the grading, the other side of that coin, we provide you with some real useful tools to be able to facilitate that process. We also are integrated into your learning management system. So that keeps a familiar environment. Again, you're not needing to send your students to 20 different tech tools. They can go to their LMS, they can open up your assignment and have Book Widgets right there to do the activity, and then their work would be returned to them too. You can also use Book Widgets through the web. It is web-based, so if you're not using an LMS, just a quick link. You want to send your parents something to do with their child, you could totally do that too. Just send a link in an email. It's as easy as that, or even print a QR code if you're doing station work, let's say in a community space. But with the LMS comes some additional advantages like being able to monitor student progress in real time. And then our reporting dashboard, whether you're through an LMS or through the web, the reporting dashboard just gives you those statistics so that you can be efficient and spend less time on grading and much more time on student feedback. So I'm going to show you quite a few different examples today, but the gist is that we want you to work smarter, not harder. So there's no need for multiple costly subscriptions because you can use one platform in this case with robust features in multiple ways. It also saves time and sanity with using and reusing those templates and then customizing those templates or example lessons that fit your goal. You can just drop it in your LMS and just go. And then the auto scoring and rationale feedback, again, save time and support learning. So you're going to see lots of examples. So just to give you kind of like the big umbrella view overview. We have those 40 different interactive templates. So there's games. You can use it for formative assessment, even on up to your final exams. And then we have 36 different question types to, again, make your students' thinking visible within our four different widgets, the quiz, the worksheet, video quiz, and split worksheet. So you will get a copy of the slides after we're done with the webinar and I send you the recording. And all of this is clickable. So you will be Alice down the rabbit hole, being able to go find that collection of EduProtocol templates, or you're curious about widgets, you're curious about question types, you'll be able to go exploring. So we kick things off with a fast and curious style. So, Marlene, can you speak a little bit more about the design of Fast and Curious and the intention?
Well, we did the first half of Fast and Curious. So Fast and Curious is just a different way of using a quiz program, and it's super easy. You give the kids the quiz, generally pretty short, about 2, maybe 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a good time. Then after the kids respond, you review the most missed questions. So you just kind of look at the scores real quick, pick out the ones that they're missing, and then very quickly you review them. I focus on only the right answers because I want the kids to hear that right answer. And then immediately we turn around and we give them the quiz again right away for another maybe 2 to 3 minutes. So altogether, this takes maybe 6 minutes altogether by the time you give the quiz, review a couple of questions that are the most missed, and then you review it again. It gives kids a chance to not only redeem themselves, but also to begin to pull that information out of their memory because they have to go like, what did she say? And they respond right away. And then the best part about Fast and Curious is you repeat it daily over the course of a week, the same quiz. And so tomorrow, when they take it the first time, once again, they've got to dip back into that memory and pull up those answers. You go over the most missed, and then they can redeem themselves. And you track those scores in your classroom the second try. We track them on the board so that the kids can say, and they can, compare, oh, today we got a 70, yesterday when we got 68, but look, we improved our class score a little bit more. The kids like it. It's fun. It's fast paced, but it's a good tool for there's certain things in the classroom we just need kids to memorize. And so this is a good way to practice that and have them spend a little time with vocabulary and certain facts and things that they just need to memorize.
So does this mean drill and kill them with multiple choice questions? I would
Yes.
hope not.
Yeah. It's a little more interesting, a little more fun. And I love how BookWidgets incorporates that drag and draw and the matching things as part of the quiz. And I would suggest you keep your Fast and Curious really short. That maybe it's just one or maybe two of those widget activities so that you can review it quickly and then give them time to do it again.
So this is not a Fast and Curious style activity. But what this does show you is the capabilities of, what kinds of questions could you use for a Fast and Curious. So if you wanted multiple choice, multiple answers, the traditional short answer, long answer, rich text. But then we have every single question type available in BookWidgets is here for you to go take a look at and to play with as if you're a student. So you can see the versatility, and not every Fast and Curious needs to just be multiple choice. You can do, make a table question with true, false. You can do annotate picture. There are whiteboard questions. So if you want to say, draw me the diagram real quick. There's lots here that you could use both for Fast and Curious and beyond for other EduProtocols. But this widget, all question types here, is a really good one for you to just, again, see what the capabilities are, as I'm like still scrolling and still scrolling.
So many good things in there. And what makes it the
Yes.
fast and curious is that you do it once, feedback, do it again, and then repeat day 2, day 3, at least day 4 to give kids a chance to really internalize that information. And we're
And when you think
using,
of,
well, kind of in a sense, we're using the quiz to teach rather than to test.
yes, that's a
Right.
great shift. I also liked your shift about, focusing on the right answer too. And then just using the technology to be able to be multimodal and multimedia of like with accessibility, having audio and visual. So, um,
Oh,
for
for
your emerging
our
readers
younger.
at the elementary level, having more audio video capabilities is useful. And again, I'm still scrolling. I'm still
I know, I
scrolling.
love that one back there with the sorting of the animal types, amphibian. Like these are really wonderful, fast and curious type activities. And like I said, you don't necessarily need a bunch of them. One or two is plenty. And then that allows you to very quickly review it and then for them to do it again. And you're using like really key information that they need to know to move forward in the other lessons you're going to be covering or skills, grade level skills that they just need to master.
Yep. And self-assessment with a rubric question. I love the metacognition. So, yeah, question types are great. But then also, the other reason I want to call this out is up here in the corner, we have a make a copy in my account. So, if you click that green button, if you don't have a BookWidgets account already, you'll have to create one. But then it opens up the widget in editor view. So we don't have what you see is what you get, a WYSIWYG editor. But what you can do is once you've opened this editor view, you can then go into each question and then say, okay, well, how did they configure that? How did they set that up? What did they do to make this question happen? And then you can go in, you can see what you need to do, play with it a little bit. You can change the correction and scoring options. You can come over here to general. General is also where there's, in this list of settings, there's a whole slew of stuff that you can customize if you want to have answers being color coded immediately. You want to show the score. You want to have automated feedback based on a score. You can do that too. You want to make it strict answering order or randomize. You can do that. You want to have a startup password or use this in Safe Exam Browser. Allow text selection, like highlighting of students being able to highlight material on the widget. They can do that. You could also restrict copy paste options. And again, like being able to customize the widget. And then if you change any of these settings, when you go to preview, now you get to see it in student mode. You can, play with the things, test it out, like use the embedded calculator or not, answer the questions, then say, oh, I want to change this, go back to the settings. And it allows you to, be a little bit sandbox without worrying that, you're shipping something to your students and you've messed up. But then also, if you need to make any updates to a widget, you can always do that and um, have it update automatically for your students. So this just gives you some idea of capability with what's possible with Fast and Curious. And, as you try out different content, you can also try out different question types. All right, so our next example of a protocol is Sketch and Tell. Um, this one involves using a whiteboard question and then students write in it. So I'll open up the student view just so you can see a little bit of functionality with this.
This
And
is
one
one of
thing,
my
oh,
well,
go
this is
ahead, you go.
go ahead. This is one of my favorite Edu protocols. I just wanted to say. Go
It's
ahead,
my,
Karen.
it's one of mine too. I love
So
it.
there's 3 basic steps in a sketch and tell. One is that the students are having they get what I call input. So whether it be in something they read, in something they hear, or something they watch, there's an element of input. And then they draw their interpretation of it. And then right, so they're going to draw their interpretation, and Kate drew hers, and I would draw mine. And then she and I are going to talk about it, and I'm going to explain my interpretation to her, and she explains to me. And then we separate and we write it out just a little bit. Like, it doesn't have to be tons, but just enough to help students kind of synthesize that information. So 3 parts. First, there's input, and then they draw, they pair share, and write. So I guess technically that's 4 parts. I always say 3, but technically it's 4
Who's
parts.
counting?
That's right. Who's counting? And it's just that quick and that easy. Kids, you probably do parts of this already, but it's a sequence of all of these steps together where the kids are drawing, sharing, and explaining that reteaching part to a partner. And then they're writing about what they did, just putting it into words on paper. So
And
powerful.
one thing to note about collaboration in book widgets, and this is functionality, it's not going to function like Google Docs where your students are on the same widget together at the same time and you're seeing their little names fly around on the screen. It's one-to-one. So each student will open up their individual widget activity. They'll type in, do whatever interaction they're doing, and then submit it individually. So the collaboration is happening around or outside of the widget activity. It doesn't mean you can't design it to have collaboration, but it just means that the students are documenting it in the one widget activity. And yeah, I love sketch and tell. It's as a visual person, as someone who likes to think in pictures, this really helps me out.
Yep. So here's
Uh,
our source. Here's our directions. Just one source,
oh, yep,
draw, pair share, and then write.
correct. And then our next protocol is Frayer. So this one's using a whiteboard widget. So it's not necessarily a whiteboard question because I didn't need other resources with it. This Frayer is just done on a whiteboard by itself, where the students are able to draw, add pictures, etc. So all of these are clickable. So even if I don't go into the student view and show off the functionality for the sake of time, because we could spend all day together, each one of these is clickable, so you can get into it and take a look at it. And you can play as well.
Now, just a real quick word about the Frayer. The Frayer is a wonderful follow-up to the Fast and Curious. So if you have a piece of information that kids just aren't getting, a vocabulary word that just seems like it's really sticky, after day 2, they're not getting it right in the Frayer and the Fast and Curious, then you can switch over to a Frayer and explore that a little more deeply in the Frayer.
And all of this is about with the Frayer, it's about, kind of organizing their thinking, getting the thoughts out of their head down onto the page. In this case, it's the screen, but well, does the Frayer have to be locked into specific quadrants, or can you be a little creative?
You can be a little creator. Now the Frayer was actually developed by Dorothy Frayer back in the 60s. And we think it fits so nicely with what we do. We've sort of adopted it. So thank you to Dorothy Frayer and her work. She was a genius in making those fields for vocabulary. But we have done a lot where we've taken those 4 quadrants and changed them into other things. It's just an easy format for kids to explore. 4 items is not overwhelming for them. You can have that in, change them whatever you want. Yeah, in other words.
Awesome. Yay. Next part is 8 parts. This was one I loved doing with my freshmen, focusing on the 8 parts of speech. But really, what I found was doing this protocol with my freshmen, it unlocked writing for them and what they would write about.
Kids explore the picture. They look at this picture, And then they brainstorm either into, together as a class. I would start with this whole group and they would copy, and then eventually they can do it on their own. But you explore and brainstorm words around the parts of speech. And then when all those are filled out, then they use those words to write. And where this has a lot of power is we have a real, fun, silly picture right now. And that's a great way to motivate kids. But eventually you can use pictures from your curriculum and have kids be building vocabulary around the curriculum in these parts of speech. And that's really fun.
I used pictures that were researchable, that were tied to the curriculum. So we were reading Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and in that short story, uh, Walter Mitty imagines that he's a pilot in a plane. And I found pictures from Lake Michigan where they were unearthing uh, these test planes that had been under the water. They were pulling them out, and then refurbishing them, putting them in a museum. But it came with a whole National Geographic story. So I was able to ask my students to go research this picture. What kind of plane is this? And they're like, is that Amelia Earhart's plane? And I'm like, no, dudes, let's like dig in. What are your clues? What do you see in the image? And the 8 parts piece helped to slow down their thinking, that they were focused on looking for those details. And then those details we turned into search terms. And then I asked them to write the story of this plane. Um, who flew it? And they actually were able to uncover the name of the pilot, the location, where this plane went afterwards. And this was my students who were in a tracked class with in-class support. So they were not proficient writers, or they didn't feel like they were proficient writers or thinkers. And with 8 parts, like, oh my God, the writing I got from them, it was amazing. It was amazing. What a turning point for them.
But when we talk about in a lesson, we hear a lot about building background knowledge. And as a teacher, sometimes I'm like, what do you do with that, right? There you did. That's what you did, Kate. You built a background knowledge. So then they had that information they were able to write. You filled in those blanks. I love that. That's a wonderful story. So here's
Thank
the
you.
process. We're brainstorming all 8 parts of speech. Even younger students, we do all of them. Young students, like second grade, we use something called little parts, which has less. But for most students, they can go right into all 8 parts. One paragraph is what they're going to come out with. And just use something fun for the picture, and then repeat it regularly until they're really solid on those parts of speech. And then you can bring it back periodically throughout the year.
Nice. And then you can follow up 8 parts with another one, sentence parts.
That's right. Because once we do our parts of speech, next comes the parts of sentences. Yep.
So this one we're looking at, again, same idea. Give them a picture that's interesting for them to look at, to like really investigate. So there's a little bit of inquiry here. And then you get the creativity happening where they're trying to fit what they see from the image into the style of sentence or the structure of the sentence. So, you're supporting their creativity, giving them some anchor points. They're not necessarily creating off of nothing, but then they're also learning the grammatical skills too, and improving their writing with some different types of sentences.
And exploring vocabulary, not vocabulary, exploring a dialogue as well, in that piece. Yeah. And
Yes.
so as soon as they master 8 parts, move right into sentence parts is kind of the finishing piece of that.
Yay. And I'm seeing a pattern here too, that, you know, these protocols are also patterned themselves too. So it's not like you as the teacher always have to be like, oh, how is this one different than that one? This type of protocol, when, 8 parts and sentence parts, again, makes it easier for us. And you could reuse pictures that you did for 8 parts and then repurpose them for sentence parts.
Right. And a lot of teachers ask, like, how do you grade these? Because as you notice, there's a lot of open space for student work. It's not where they're just filling in a word. They're doing the bulk of the work here, not you. So how do you grade these? What we advocate for doing is circulating around the room, giving kids feedback in real time as they're working. Of course, you're collecting the information here, and Kate will show you how to see that at some point. But your feedback goes back to them right away. And in real time is the best because then you're not grading afterwards. You're correcting mistakes as they're working.
Yes. And I will be showing, once we get through some of our templates here, then I'll definitely be showing you what that looks like for teachers and what the assessment side of it is. So this next one is CyberSandwich. And you'll notice for this one, from a collaboration standpoint, I have the first open question up at the top is what's the names of your partners? So this one could be like two students are sharing one device. So again, they could be collaborating and talking to each other outside of the widget, but then submitting one response for themselves. So tell me a
Or
little bit more about CyberSandwich.
Or they could just be shoulder partners working on their own device, and then they just kind of share the content. So usually this is for something that you want to go a little deeper in with comprehension. So giving them a not too long, something that takes them no more than 10 minutes to read on average. And then so the kids read and they take notes as they're reading. And then two students will share, what did you notice in the writing, in the story or the article or whatever it is? And what did I notice? And so we list those key things here. So I've got my notes and then I have some bullet points from my partner. And then we brainstorm, what did we notice together? What did we both come out of it? And you'll find that some kids approach things from different points of view, as we all do in life. You know, we all know we can read the same news article and come out with completely different takeaways from it. So kids do the same thing no matter what they read. So we're just trying to cross pollinate their ideas and it helps them go deeper into the comprehension. One kid might notice things that are very numerical, time wise. Other kids might notice something very touchy feely. And so together that completes their picture of the story. So they pair share and they make that list of things we both noticed. And then they separate from their partner and individually they compose a paragraph about what they learned. And you can prompt them with specific prompts here if you want them to write. If you can pull a question from your curriculum that they can respond to, or you can just give a general question of summarize the discussion or summarize what you learned or summarize what the article was about. But I like it when teachers choose a question out of their curriculum and make it a more pointed question.
Yes. So this one, you could do, again, Google Slides. I know we have 5 slides here, but within BookWidgets, you wouldn't need the Google Slide aspect. It does remind me of the Venn diagram.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a Venn diagram. It's just that we put it into boxes to make the moving over and adding the text a little more organized for kids. But basically, it is a Venn diagram. What you have, what they have, and then what we have together.
Yeah. Similar, we now have 3 times point of view. What do you got this one or 3 times genre?
3x genre. Yeah, I love this one because when we tell teachers we're going to write 3 different ways at once, usually they look at us like, oh, what? And then when they do it, they're like, this is genius. So what we have students do is here they're writing, Kate's got this from points of view, but it can be genres. It can be, you can use whatever you want. But let's just say 3 genres. So we've got creative. So we've got an image that we might show them, and we're writing off of an image. And then the first one is just creative. Just write creatively about, describe this thing that you see. And then we've got a picture about unicorns. We're just going to write about it. And then genre 2 might be informative. And so now they're writing an informative paragraph about unicorns. And then the third one, no, it's going to still be unicorns, Kate.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We're still writing about
I
unicorns.
probably shouldn't have picked a
unicorns have
fantastical.
horns, or unicorns are imaginary. So it's going to be something informative about them. And then, and the third one, we might do something that's, let's do persuasive. Unicorns are the best. Right. And so, they're going to come up with better titles than that. But then they're going to write something to persuade you about something about unicorns, that they're the best, or I need one, something along that line. So what we're doing here by having them write side by side is we're getting them to engage in this type of writing quickly. So when they come to another situation, maybe in an assessment or something you're doing in class, and you need them to immediately identify what is the type of writing and how to get started with it. They can do that very quickly, because here we're asking them to move in and out of these different genres all at the same time, one after the other. A lot of times teachers will teach, informative in the first quarter and then persuasive the second quarter. We're piecing this out. So they never really get to see them side by side and identify what's different or similar about each style. So that's the goal here, is getting them to write about one image in different ways to increase their familiarity with the different formats of writing.
And the design of this too, like, when we give them a document to write on, a Google Doc or a Word doc, like it already puts students in a mindset of like the type of tasks that they have to do and all the associations of writing with trying to word process. But when we do it this way with like a nice graphic organizer, it takes some of the maybe the heaviness or the fear of writing that students might experience, the struggle, and it does just kind of like, oh, it's a different, this looks different. I'm going to approach it differently. Um, and again, still keeping their thinking organized though, too.
Now, when I start this one with kids, regardless of the age, generally we create the titles together, because that's the first step in writing it the right way. Is like, if the title gives you a hint, right? So start by writing those titles together. And when the kids are familiar and able to do that, then they can create their own titles. But there's a little learning curve for them to attach, that genre to how to get started on it.
Nice.
One image, three genres. It could be three styles of poetry. It could be 3 points of view. You could insert any writing thing in there that you want.
And at the time I did the 8 parts plane writing, where I asked them to tell me the story of this plane, we did like a plot diagram with it, where I asked them to literally map out like the rising action, the plane takes off. Oh, the turning point. Oh, that's where the plane now has encountered some issues and has falling action, crash landed. And then we get, a resolution with the plane being unearthed or, risen from the waters, and then asking them to pick a moment from there to write about it. Could also have, I could have extended that now too to think about different people that were involved with that. So kind of building some empathy or different people involved in that image of looking at it from a different perspective and what their emotions would be like. I love doing this of taking an image and then it seems like it's 2D, that it's just a flat image, but really you can use these protocols to really make it so much more expansive. Speaking of writing, we got another one here. This is Random Emoji Power Paragraph.
Oh, in random emoji, we're going to spin up an emoji, and then kids are writing a sentence about that emoji. Then we spin up another one, and they have to continue the story, because a sentence connects to the prior sentence. A paragraph is a process of ideas that are related to each other, not individual. So we're
So
writing
is
here
this
to pursue our idea, right?
creative writing only? So like, oh, my story is going to feature somebody looking through a telescope, or is this, could you also tie this to nonfiction, like to real, more factual writing?
Yes, you can. And you have kids build analogies and connections between ideas using these images to spark their ideas related to content. Um, yeah, I don't know. You have to come up with a topic, but we're talking the Civil War. How does that relate to the Civil War? Like, what is that about? Like, how does that relate? So you can have kids expand that. You can also spin it by having them write in a certain tense or a certain point of view. You can bring in your English language elements that way and have kids direct their random emoji towards something specific. I like having kids write, third person, or a certain person's point of view, the first character's point of view from then on after the first sentence. However you want to mix it up, you can do that and layer in those skills that you want kids to practice. It's
No.
fun. They like it. And when you spin it, they're usually I spin the first one until they say yes. And that'll be the one we land on for the first one. But it's fun. And the kids will come up with fun, crazy stuff. Now, remember their goal is just those. I think there's 5 sentences, right? There's just 5 sentences. That's it. They're not writing. They don't need to write a book. They don't need to write, a paragraph for each one of those. Each emoji is a sentence, and then that builds the paragraph or short story.
Nice. Again, making writing accessible, making it fun. Love it. Love it, love it, love
Yeah.
it. Our next one is mini report.
Mini report is all about 2 things. One is, once again, we often have kids write a big report at the end of our semester, and we forget to have them write reports throughout the course of our semester or year, or however you're laid out. So that when they get to that big one at the end, sometimes they're really lost. They don't know what to do. And we have such high expectations for them. So the mini report is made to be shorter and smaller so that you can do it more often, thus providing more practice. Now, the second goal is students are taking 2 or 3 sources. I would start with two sources, and combining those sources into one report, which is really hard for them. So for younger students, I might start out with 2 picture books. Like maybe we're doing George Washington, and I would just read them 2 picture books, and we would pull out facts from each book and then organize them into the areas that we want to cover. Like, what was George Washington's early childhood life? What was his, we would say political life for older kids, but younger kids, we might say as he was president. And then we might say, what was his military life, right? And so we're sorting facts from the 2 books into those 3 categories. And then from there, they can write their report. Older kids, it works the same way, except you may have other sources than children's books. Although I think children's books go a long ways up, some of them. But you can have them read 2 articles, two websites, something like that. It could be your textbook as well. It could be an article online as well as your textbook, and then that becomes the 2 sources that they are combining the facts to create the essay. It's just a way for them to structure and help them understand how we mix 2 things into one.
So I'm showing the editor view here of this mini report, which again, you could customize this template. You could remove, change any of the questions, add in some additional information for your kiddos. But then if you are using resources, and you have digital resources, not just something like your textbook, you can add resources like a rich text where you're typing in information, and you can embed video, kind of multiple pieces there. You can also just do a video, audio, PDF, web embed, or image. So if you want to put resources with these questions, or you want to put multiple resources with, so I'm going to do rich text number 1. And then I'm going to add another resource just so that you can see what happens. And again, I can insert images, individual items within this rich text. But then when I go to the preview, now what you'll see is a split screen view where we have the mini report entry pieces on one side. And then on the other side, I know it's blank because I didn't actually put anything in there. But you'll see down at the bottom here, I have text 1, I have text 2, and I can let them like interact with these resources or this collection of resources as they're doing the work here. So this was a recent update, being able to do question pages as well as resources within the widget activity so that you can give your students everything they possibly need.
And I love that because it mimics a little more closer to their testing situations where they generally do have text and a response field on one screen. So that's such a slick way to do it.
And I like this too. When I taught 9th grade, my students, the 9th grade research paper was a 6-week unit. That was very long and laborious for both them and me. And what I love about this protocol is that it's about the skills, but you don't lose the forest for the trees, like you're still working these type of skills, but it doesn't feel like you've gotten lost in some big behemoth project.
I bet every teacher has that story somewhere because for me, it was when I was teaching fifth grade and we had to do explorer reports. And we spent weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks doing research, and the kids had really no good method of organizing their research. And I did not do a great job of helping them, I admit. I wish I had had mini report back then, because what I would have done is we would have done maybe 3 or 4 explorers each, but they would have been these shorter research papers and we would have done a lot more. I think it would have been so much more effective for their writing. Live and
Mm-hmm.
learn, right? We all make mistakes. We all learn
Gosh.
from our mistakes. But that's the goal of many reports, is more practice more often. So it is something that they should be able to do within a class period, to be able to read 2 sources, combine, sort the facts, and then produce a piece of writing. They should be able to do it fairly quickly. Um,
Now the next one is the scoop. Kind of similar, but different.
in the scoop, they're just taking kind of the point of view of a news reporter, and then they're collecting information from that perspective. So this would be for informative writing, um, maybe persuasive writing, but we've got their piece of information here, and then they're building out the details with that. So this might be something you do before they begin to combine sources from 2 sources. You
And
probably
then
should
for
put these in a slide deck, Kate. Have this one come first.
And then we have the, so I'm filling in the ideas. My chart will expand as I'm typing, but then rather than typing what is the scoop, now I've embedded a audio question so students can practice speaking skills, and they could read it as if they were, doing a news report, with the teleprompter kind of thing. And then I've also included here a rubric question type for students again to self-assess and say like, and to take some ownership of the work too. Do-do-do-do. Next one is thin slides. I think this is our last template for today, as far as at least for the templates that we have for you right now. So thin slides, although we're not really using a slide, Marlena, but
No,
it's
but it's okay. We should call it thin book widgets. In this one, the original thin slide is one word, one image. And then the kids take a moment and they popcorn around the room and explain why they chose that image in literally like 10 seconds. I like to say one concise sentence each. Now, what we've done here and book widgets is they have one word and then they choose 3 emojis to share that word. So kind of the reverse of the random emoji power paragraph. They're basically explaining about the word backwards, right? They have the word and then they create the 3 emojis to kind of tell their little story. And then they can popcorn around the room and share why they chose that word. And that share, remember, is really, really quick, so that everybody gets a chance. But it's the power of the room, right? When everybody gets to voice something, we have this power of a classroom where everybody has been heard and everybody hears everybody else.
I love that. Love it. So yeah,
So one word,
super.
one image, or slash 3 emojis on one slide or one thing, and then real quick, like 3 minutes, because how long does it take to pick 3 emojis? Like, it's something that can happen really fast. And then the pair share, I'm sorry, not the pair share, but the pop around the classroom is 5 minutes most, because we're asking the kids, think of that one concise sentence, and then that's all you're sharing when your slide comes up.
Nice.
Super fast, super fun.
So we have lots of templates and example. We have for the 10 different EduProtocols, I have multiple templates made plus example lessons for you. So, but if you want to add in your own content, you're totally allowed to do that. So you can duplicate the template. Again, that green button up there is great for that. You can utilize those built-in features for your students. So determining if you want to have text to speech, multi-language support, a calculator, scratch pad. There's an equation editor. Don't be fooled by the name BookWidgets and only think ELA can use it, because we have lots accessibility for science and math. We also have an on-screen keyboard too if your littles aren't using you know, Chromebooks, if they're on iPads. And again, BookWidgets is device agnostic and also grade agnostic, really from kindergarten, preschool, all the way on up through university level. We have teachers using BookWidgets. Once you duplicate the template, determine what built-in features you want them to use, then you can also set some additional parameters, like if you want strict answer ordering, a startup password, a timer, copy paste restrictions, and then you can adjust the scoring options. Determine if you want to have color coding immediately, what answers or scores are revealed, what does the feedback look like when the students get their work back. So the templates themselves, I'll show you. They're all housed in this group. So yeah, you do need to have a BookWidgets license. But if you go to the BookWidgets blog group and we have the EduProtocols group, within here, this folder, we have each one of the different templates, protocols that we have here. And then when you go into, you can see different examples. And if you say you can go preview it, take a look at it, see if you like it. You say, yes, I totally want to use this. Then you can come over here and you could duplicate it to your account. You could also just share it. If you think it's good to go as is, you could share it. From trial accounts and single teacher accounts, you can send directly to Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. If you need to use like Canvas, Moodle, some of the other LMSs, you would need LTI integration. But you can also just do a share link, a QR code if you're doing, let's say, station work. And if you're doing exams, we have something called Exam Link, but which kind of puts it more in a secure environment. But if you're working with other teachers and you're like, oh, my colleague would love this, you can share the teacher link and then, you know, copy paste that link, send it to them in an email, a message, and then they get that same duplicate this to my account, that green button up in the corner. So multiple ways that you can work together. So we got all those for you. And then, oh, sorry, I clicked in the wrong spot. Back in. There we go. So just some other tips and tricks for digitizing EduProtocols. If you're using BookWidgets, great, but even if you're using other tools, just some things to keep in mind. Marlena, do you want to talk about this one? Go through these?
Well, let's see, unpack the why. Just yeah, I'm not sure where to go with that, Kate, other
Just
than
looking beyond the verbs, like what thinking
yeah,
skill does it require? You know,
we're
why
just
are
getting
you doing
kids,
this?
yeah, we're getting kids deeper into that learning. We are shifting the weight from you creating fancy worksheets to giving them the bulk of the work, which is really huge because now they feel like they own it. And we're just seeing that in classroom after classroom after classroom where kids are more engaged, which is such a relief because nowadays a lot of kids don't want to be, they're not, well, I would just say they're not easy to engage all the time nowadays.
And how do
Um,
you know which protocol to pick? Like out of the slew of them, how do you know which one you want to do? Why?
There are so many, but I'll tell you that the ones that Kate has put into BookWidgets is a really wonderful place to start. Those are kind of the core, what I would call the core classic EduProtocols. And you'll be able to use those pretty much throughout your curriculum. And some are obvious, like 3X genre. Others like Fast and Curious and Frayer, you can use most easily across all content areas. So think about where in your lesson you are and what you want kids to be doing. Vocabulary, we've got 3X, sorry, we've got Fast and Curious, and we've got Frayer. And then as you move deeper into, for example, the comprehension of something, you've got CyberSandwich. So you just have to think about what that protocol does and what you're trying to get out of it. Matching format to skills. Yeah, I love that. You know, choose your widget and your media that matches what you're doing. um, and keep it simple. The EduProtocols are fairly simple. The power is that once you teach kids how to use it, you can bring it out and they can use it over and over and over again with very little or no instruction on your part, which means everybody can focus on the content instead of teacher, teacher, my favorite teacher. I always think teacher, teacher, because they're always pulling on you. What do I do next? So we can move away from that. And
Nice.
then plan for flexible pathways to mastery. One thing that I love about EduProtocols is because they're open-ended, it gives kids a space to work where they are. So a kid that may only be able to write one sentence versus a kid who's writing 3 paragraphs, generally there's space for them to do that in the same amount of time, using the same tools, that you don't have to necessarily make a different set of materials for that kid versus this kid.
Nice.
Anything else I left out?
Yeah, no, I think you got it all. So,
Okay.
as I mentioned before, integrating with your learning management system makes it easy. So you get those benefits of, if you're doing synchronous and you want to do, in the moment being able to watch what students are doing. Um, and in addition to the verbal feedback you may give them face to face, and as you're moving about the room, they're also getting the live feedback as they're working. When you're, just some ideas and tips and tricks, which many of you may already know these as for working with your LMS, but using naming conventions and tagging your skills and standards and embedding your rubrics helps them to understand what the expectations are. This way you can filter when you do the tagging and, organizing your assignments by learning goals. And I love that EduProtocols like fits with any curriculum. So even if your school is mandating, you're following this text specific textbook, you can still do, the EduProtocols with that material. And then for the sake of time, I wish I could spend all day with everyone. But if you wanted to play a little bit more, I invite you to go back to that live classroom space. Feel free to go play with any of those, even beyond this webinar time, or if you're watching the recording, to go play as a student. Your responses all come to me, and you can play with, feedback in your classroom and what does feedback look like for you and your students. And when we're thinking about feedback, it's so often we think, do a task, submit something, then you get your feedback. But really, it's about placing that feedback within the learning cycle. So while it's happening at the same time, they're experiencing the feedback, not something that's just bolted on afterwards, because that's going to help direct them and also help them to encode the information quicker. So auto feedback will certainly, when you can do that, will certainly save you with real-time learning, including those content and skill-aligned rationales. So with BookWidgets, you can do that automated feedback to them based on what their total score is. But then for each individual question, you can also do a rationale. And in that rationale, you can give them some additional information to help support their learning of the content. You can also use it as I've used this for like open-ended questions that aren't necessarily auto-scored, where I've put in my, diagram or my answer, and then ask students to compare their answer to mine, and to see where, so again, they're taking some ownership of the learning process. That was one of the things I always hated, was standing in front of the room with my answer key when we were doing paper-based work, and like, number one is true, number two is false. Like, oh, what an awful waste of time. So being able to leverage the technology is definitely a time and sanity saver.
And
Uh,
we know that in the absence of feedback, students cannot make growth because they don't know what to do next. And so the shorter we can make that feedback loop, the more powerful the classroom is. And tools like BookWidget makes that so easy for the teacher, so we can get that feedback to the kids right away.
and that's where the learning's happening in the reflection and feedback moments. That's where it's not just inputs, that's where they're really thinking about, okay,
Exactly.
what is this information? Now, what am I going to do with it? So, Again, being able to be strategic with it, and then, if we need to adjust our instruction, we can do so based on the data and information. So when it comes to giving personalized feedback, within BookWidgets and our reporting dashboard, you can use filters. So you can grade student by student, you could grade question by question, and then you can group answers together so that if, 5 students have the same answer, you don't have to write feedback 5 times. You can do it once and it'll go right back to them. You can also do audio feedback if you're doing with an LMS, and then that audio recording will go to the students too, so they can hear your voice, etc. So what does that look like? I got a quick kind of like snapshot of the grading view going into a student view. Being able to give text feedback on what they got right or wrong. So you're seeing the teacher actually score right now. And then, they can change answers. They can always adjust the points. The teacher is always in the driver's seat in BookWidgets. It is never, the technology is just an assistant for you. And just an interesting note about BookWidgets, all of us in the company are either current or former teachers. Some of us are still in the classroom today, or we're related, a direct relation to an educator, whether we're married to one or, a parent or a sibling is one, but we're closely connected to educators. And the entire platform has been built on teacher feedback. And we've tried to think of every possible use case or scenario that, teachers may encounter throughout the course of their day. So when you're grading, this is, kind of a little bit of a side-by-side view of one of the 8 parts. We have the students are writing the short paragraph and they've done the rubric, self-evaluation. But then up here in the teacher view, you could use keywords to do a little bit of auto grading for that open-ended response. So if they're, hitting specific words, ice cream cone, blonde hair, like things that are factual from the image, you could have them get a point for each one. You can also then confirm or refute what they've put in the rubric to assess their work. And again, change scores, give them half points. You have the autonomy to be able to do that. And for something like a Frayer, where they're doing an image or sketch and tell, like on a whiteboard, then what you're going to see is an image of the student's submission, and then you can annotate on top of that. So you can use the drawing tools to, add comments, your own little annotations. You can also put in comments and give them, more feedback with it. We also have another tool called correction labels. So again, as an English teacher, how many times have I circled spelling? How many times have I circled commas? I can create my own set of correction labels that are both positive or negative, things I want to call out. And then I can highlight the piece within the student submission. So this way I can highlight and just tag it. And then the students will get, how many spelling errors or how many grammatical issues. I can mark each part correct or incorrect. And then I can also add text and record audio feedback for the students to know what they're writing. So this submission is that 3 times POV when they were looking at an image and then writing. So this was the graphic organizer, and you can see how 1 corresponds to 1 up here, 2, 2. So again, to make it easier for you to give them the feedback. Rubrics are great. Love rubrics, but also getting creative with the rubrics to reinforce those expectations and alignment to skills. Using the widget and LMS comments to align feedback to standards is always helpful. Reinforcing that growth mindset in the feedback, like not just you got this wrong, but looking at framing comments as what comes next, not just what's missing. Because feedback is meant to inform us, to help us move forward. And then having that reflection piece and being able to respond with an action plan of what comes next. Do they redo? Do they try again? I know with the EduProtocol, you'll give them, a new repetition to do. But sometimes, if a student's really struggling, you have to, hit pause and try something else. Anything you want to add, Marlena, on the personalized feedback and scoring work?
I think you've done such a great job.
No,
The
thank
only
you.
thing I would add is just don't forget to be walking around the room and giving feedback in real time as well. As these are the layers that create that classroom that's dynamic, and the teacher's role in real time is really important. Not just to be behind the screen waiting for that feedback to come in, but making sure that you are out with the kids.
Yep. And so when you return the work to your students, you can also customize the view. So if you need to differentiate instruction, like if you have students with IEPs who need specific things in their IEP returned to them, whereas the global general classroom does not, you can make individual or group views of what the feedback looks like going to your students. And, being able to personalize it that way and help them out. So just kind of pulling it all together, kind of thinking of, what are these steps for working with EduProtocols and book widgets. So either using those templates or creating your own lesson materials. Uh, Again, we got all those ready to use protocol templates for you to jump right in and aligning those to your learning goals. Integrate it with your LMS so you got easy tracking. It's a secure environment. It's a familiar environment for students, giving that live feedback as they're practicing the skills, whether it's in person or digital, and then returning that personalized feedback in the LMS to reinforce and document the learning. So we do have a thin slides exit ticket if you want to play along and try that one out. So same space. And oof, we're so over time. Again, I could spend all day long with you. So to wrap us up, I do have a present. Is Everybody starts in Book Widgets with a 30-day free trial. But if you are a brand new trial user and you have not claimed a gift card yet, because you only get to claim one once, I have a gift card for you for 3 months usage. Now I'll give you a little tip. Don't You have to put this in your calendar. Don't claim it today. Start your account, and then as you're nearing the end of the 30 days, then do the gift card, because then you'll get a 4 free months. Just a little tip there. Just don't forget. And we have lots of resources. So if you want to stay in touch with Marlena and I, you can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook. Bookwidgets.com is where you go to create your account. But this, oh my gosh, if you really want to do a deeper dive, the Book Widgets blog, and you want to be Alice down the rabbit hole, the Book Widgets blog is a great place to go. We're all writing activities and these blog posts, talking about not just, product updates, but also thinking about various use cases and different scenarios. And we do have a blog post on EduProtocols. So if today's webinar wasn't enough, or you want to be reading, we have this blog post that also goes through the different templates, reinforces all the information that you've learned about today. Yeah, there's books to go check out if you want to go even deeper, as well as the EduProtocols Plus. Tell us a little bit more about that, Marlena.
EduProtocols Plus is just our website where we have everything housed. And if you go to eduprotocolsplus.com/sampler, and I'll put it here in the chat, that's where you can find the directions from many of the EduProtocols that Kate covered today that go a little bit deeper. So all of these are listed there. They're not all there, but I think you'll get a good sense of sort of how we intend for them to work in the classroom. The teacher's everything, right? You can make or break it. So it's important to have that perspective. So you can go there and just check out the directions. I think that's the biggest thing that you guys can use the sampler for. And then also on our regular website, eduprotocols.com is just where we house links to our books and whatnot. We have a new book coming out, probably in the matter within the month, probably within the next 3 weeks, I would say, on designing your own EduProtocols, which is really exciting,
Ooh,
especially for those niche groups like culinary classes, that maybe have some specific needs. So that's coming out soon. So you can watch for the books coming out on our website. And then also we have a membership platform where you can join at eduprotocolsplus.com to learn more about EduProtocols.
that's awesome. If you're looking for additional webinars coming up on the Book Widgets side, if you go to bookwidgets.com/webinars, you can see some different upcoming ones. Next month webinar is on vet simulations. We got a new integration for that. Told you we weren't just for ELA. We also have game-based learning in March, some more feedback with digital exit tickets in April, and designing lessons for short films. That'll be in May. And also coming up is the Catalina Mixer, lesson mixer. That one, you can go to tinyurl.com/ Catalina Mixer 26. But Marlena, tell us about this one, this event.
And it's free. And this is where we go a little deeper into EduProtocols with teachers and practitioners of EduProtocols, where they share things they've been doing in their classrooms. So this is a little more deeper into lesson design with EduProtocols, which is really fun. And Kate and I will be doing some sessions on book widgets. And John and Kate is doing a session as well, right? John,
Yep.
co-author, my co-author, co-creator, John Carippo, will also be doing a session with Kate. So yeah, this
Yes.
is a fun place to go a little deeper to see like what does it look like working in a classroom as a whole, like as a whole piece.
All right. And I'm going to pause the recording in just a minute. If anybody wants to stay on for some Q&A, I'll invite you to unmute and come on camera and we can answer any questions directly. But in the meantime, I am just very glad our roads have crossed. So thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for coming. It's great to see so many people here. And yes, I want to hear questions.
Yes. All right.